Welcome into the Commander's Report. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and is some trouble brewing in Pittsburgh with superstar edge rusher TJ Watt? It certainly seems like TJ's upset with the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. Could he request a trade, and if so, could the Washington Commanders land him at some point during the 2025 offseason? We're going to talk about all that here on today's edition of the Commander's Report by Chat Sports. But before we get into it here, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you want to land a star edge rusher via trade, whether it's TJ Watt, whether it's Trey Hendrickson, whether it's somebody else, before the start of the 2025 NFL season. So what the heck is going on in Pittsburgh right now? A superstar edge rusher TJ Watt has posted a cryptic photo on his IG story back on Wednesday, which many people are kind of implying means that he is upset with the way that contract negotiations on a new contract extension with the Pittsburgh Steelers are going right now. So you guys can see on screen right now, this was the photo that TJ Watt posted on his Instagram story Wednesday afternoon. And it's, of course, a picture of him looking upset, putting up the deuces, and a lot of people think it sounds like, or it looks like he might be saying goodbye to the Pittsburgh Steelers, or saying that he wants out of the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. Andrew Filipponi, who is a kind of shock jock radio host in Pittsburgh, had this to say about a rumor he heard about what TJ Watt put on his IG story. He says, TJ Watt IG picture rumor. Watt heard about a media report that the Steelers want to re-sign him, but that it would be less than Myles Garrett. It didn't sit well with him, which, for the record, I agree with him on. And I think that the report that Filipponi is referring to here, and if this report is true, it would be the report that Diana Russini put out earlier this week regarding the TJ Watt contract extension talks with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is what she had to say on her show, Scoop City. He still plays at an elite level, but turns 31 in October and is in the final year of his contract. It feels unlikely he tops Garrett's mark, but expect any extension to beat that signed by the Texans' Danielle Hunter at $35.6 million per season. And essentially what this means here, guys, and if this rumor is true, and he was upset by the fact that Russini said that she's going to be essentially the second highest paid edge rusher, it likely means that Watt doesn't really appreciate that, and he wants to be the highest paid edge rusher in all of football, and he might even want to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the National Football League. So these are the numbers that TJ Watt might be looking to top once he gets his next contract, and right now the number for the edge market is at $40 million per season, and the highest paid non-quarterback is wide receiver Jamar Chase at $40.1 million per season. Now, when it comes to whether or not the Steelers are actually going to trade Watt, or if Watt is actually going to demand a trade out of Pittsburgh, I think that they're going to get a deal done. Watt really does love it there in Pittsburgh. The Steelers love him. They obviously cherish defensive talent. It's a defensive culture there with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think at the end of the day, the Steelers are trying to win now. It does look like, or at least right now, that Aaron Rodgers will eventually sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they are in win-now mode, and trading away a guy like TJ Watt, who is by far, in my opinion, their most valuable player, just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But if he is made available at some point during this offseason, I would want him bad if I were the Washington Commanders, because this is the type of player that's in the same category as guys like Myles Garrett and Trey Hendrickson that we have talked about as a legit superstar edge rusher that can take your defense just with this one acquisition to good to great. All right, you take a look at his production over the last several seasons. TJ Watt, a lot of people just see him as kind of like a sack artist, and he definitely brings that to the table. 4 seasons ago, had 22 and a half sacks, astronomical number right there. In 2023, he had 19, and last year he was on track to get close to that number again, but he got injured towards the end of the season, which kind of stunted his production towards the final quarter of the season. But where TJ Watt really has a ton of value, guys, is his ability to force turnovers. He has the most forced fumbles in the National Football League since he entered by a wide margin, and because he brings the sacks, because he brings the TFLs, because he brings the forced fumbles, he is somebody that brings a ton of production for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and that kind of value brought to this Commanders unit would be phenomenal, because right now you take a look at what the Commanders are working with here on the D-line, and at the edge, you got a couple guys that are pretty good against the run that that can certainly hold their own on an NFL field, but there's nobody that really jumps out at you as somebody that can get double-digit sacks in a season, right? TJ Watt can absolutely do that if he ends up signing or ends up being traded here to the Washington Commanders. And that's exactly the reason why I would want him, guys. If he's made available, I would have no problem giving up this year's first-round pick and paying him $40 million or more per season to be the next superstar edge rusher for the Washington Commanders. He was still a Defensive Player of the Year candidate last year. He has been a candidate for that award 3 out of the last 4 years, and the 1 year where he wasn't, he dealt with an injury for over half the season. All right, so for the last 3 fully healthy seasons for TJ Watt, he has been a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. I know he's 31 years old. He really does rely on the speed rush to win, so that might be a little bit concerning given his age. But with the Washington Commanders looking to try to win now, and they have a rookie quarterback on a cheap, affordable contract, I think that this is the type of move that they can go out here and make a splash. And then, of course, if a trade request happens after the NFL draft, I would have no problem giving up Washington's 2026 first-round pick in exchange for TJ Watt if something develops later in the offseason. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Would you trade for Watt, give up that first-round pick, and pay him $40+ million per season to ship him up here to the nation's capital? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section for today's pinned question. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and we're going to be talking about our sponsor here at Game Time in just a moment as well. So go ahead and give me a yes or a no for today's pinned question. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Game Time. And recently, producer Joey and myself took a little trip to Globe Life Park here in Arlington to watch Jacob deGrom and the Texas Rangers take on the Boston Red Sox there in Arlington. And, of course, the Rangers ended up winning. That was a great experience. And we were able to save some money on tickets so we could splurge a little bit more at the game itself. We got some great seats, but we also got some great food, and we got some merchandise. And afterwards, we even went to go see some live music. It was really a fun Saturday between me and Mr. Producer Joey. So Game Time is the official ticketing partner of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports and makes getting tickets to any live event faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down at closer gets to first pitch with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Go watch the Washington Nationals play this season at beautiful Nationals Park to take in the beauty of the game while not breaking the bank on those great seats. It's a super easy to use app, guys. You got the lowest price guarantee on there. Game Time Picks is also a great feature on there that automatically filters to find you the best deals available on their app. And you guys can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. It's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. It's just for that first purchase, guys. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS. One word, all caps, CHATSPORTS at CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, TJ Watt isn't the only player in Pittsburgh that is rumored to potentially be traded before or after the NFL draft this year. It also includes wide receiver George Pickens. Of course, the Steelers traded for DK Metcalf, who's also kind of a bigger X type of receiver. And there are some people that speculate that the Steelers would like to unload George Pickens and then draft a wide receiver early on in the NFL draft. This is what Dalton Wasserman from Pro Football Focus had to say about the possibility of George Pickens being traded. Pickens is coming off a season in which he has earned a career-high 79.7 receiving grade and was one of the best deep threats in the NFL. However, the Steelers' acquisition of DK Metcalf brings his short and long-term role into question. Metcalf garnered a massive contract extension, but it seems unlikely that Pittsburgh would pay Pickens as well in the manner that Cincinnati has done with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. He could stay in Pittsburgh for the 2025 season, albeit in a somewhat redundant role to Metcalf, but there are likely several teams in need of a vertical threat that would at least inquire about Pickens. The Steelers would likely request a day 2 pick in return to balance out what they gave up for Metcalf. So you take a look at George Pickens' profile here, guys. He's still very young, 24 years old. He's got great size at 6'3", 200 pounds. He's definitely known as one of the more physically gifted wide receivers in all of football. He might have the best spectacular catchability in the entire game, man. His ability to contort his body and make incredible catches down the field is something you just don't see very often. He's also a way underrated threat with the ball in his hands, a great yak threat as well. He's got a great cut ability to make guys miss and to create space for him out in open space. But he is also known as somebody that's kind of got a poor work habits. That's been well reported in Pittsburgh that he shows up to work late. He's even showed up to games late. Of course, he's had some issues fighting other players, and then, of course, fans as well. That's not something you want. And then he's got some effort issues on tape, both in terms of route running and in terms of run blocking. So, I think that PFF is right. Pittsburgh would probably want a day 2 pick in exchange for him. I don't think, at least I don't think they should give him up for anything less than a round 3 pick. But, when you look at that kind of situation here, guys, the other thing here is that the team acquiring him is going to have to pay him. All right. And not only are you taking on the risks of George Pickens' fighting and effort and punctuality and all that different stuff, but you're also bringing in a player that you're going to have to give a new contract to. That is, if you give up a day 2 draft pick, because that's not an insignificant draft pick, guys. If you're giving up that much draft capital for George Pickens, that means you probably believe in him long term, and you're giving him that big time contract. And for me, the acquisition cost is just too high, all right? And, I just don't love Pickens' fit within Dan Quinn's culture. I mean, part of the reason why this thing was able to turn around as fast as it did in 2024 is because they got the right people to fill the culture. I'm not sure if George Pickens is actually a great fit for what Dan Quinn, his family-style culture here. I don't know if that's necessarily something that they want to inject in this locker room, and I just don't really think that this Washington Commanders offense necessarily needs another, deep threat type of receiver. Terry McLaurin is certainly somebody that can get that job done. Also, Noah Brown can get down the field and make some big plays. And then you can also have the opportunity to draft another wide receiver this year as well. And that's probably what I would rather do if I were the Washington Commanders. All right, I don't want to spend a day 2 draft pick on George Pickens. At this point, it would be a round 2 pick, because that's the only day 2 pick that the Washington Commanders currently possess. And I think that would just be too high of a price for me for a player that is just so volatile, somebody that you really can't trust on a week-to-week basis in terms of his effort. And, I just don't know if this is necessarily a player that the Washington Commanders need to add to their offense. They're certainly not desperate at this point, so I'm not going to make a desperate move and trade a day 2 pick for George Pickens. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Would you trade for George Pickens? And if so, what round pick are you giving up to go out and get him? I think at the most, guys, at this point, given where the Commanders are at, if I am interested in adding him to this team, I'm only interested in something around a 6th round pick, a late day 3 pick. That way I can take him on. It's a 1-year kind of rental kind of situation, and if he walks in free agency the following year, all we gave up for him was a 6th round pick. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. The most I'm willing to do is a 6th round pick, and I doubt the Steelers would be willing to take that, but make sure you guys click that subscribe button right now if you haven't already. If we get more developments on the TJ Watt front or on the Trey Hendrickson front, it certainly seems like the Commanders are very much interested in adding a star edge rusher via trade if they can do so. So we're going to see if that ends up being a possibility and a reality by the end of this offseason. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now, because if something happens, we'll get you the very latest right here on the Commanders Report.